Hey, everybody. Oh, Sarah, I see that you are there. Tara, I see you right there. Oh, everybody's popping on. Hey, Carrie. Hey, Shannon.
Yippee!
Yippee! We're in. Hey. Hey, Craig. Hey, Angie.
Hey.
Who am I missing here? Oh, my goodness. I'm loving this.
Yes.
Awesome. We will wait for just a couple more minutes. How's everybody doing tonight? Can you hear me? Yeah. Shake your head if you can hear me. Okay, good. Can you hear me well?
Okay. Hey.
Yeah.
There you are. Oh my goodness. Awesome. Hey, Heather. I'm loving this. I can see everybody from the comfort of their own home. I'm loving it. The ladies are representing tonight. Oh, hey, girl. Oh, hey, Sarah.
Hi.
This is awesome.
So weird.
It is so weird. So how many of you guys are on your phone doing it?
I am.
Wave if you're doing it on your phone. Okay. All right. Talk to you guys. Oh, I see some of you muted yourself. I'm going to unmute you for a minute. Hey, what's up? Oh, you keep muting yourself. That's okay. Awesome. I'm going to wait just a few more minutes here as everybody hops on. Hey, Shellanne, you're just across the street. How funny is that? This is awesome. I wish I had some music playing for you guys.
Hey, it's Mark. Do we have video tonight, or is it just audio?
We do have video. You should be able to. Did you call in?
I'm from my iPhone. Yeah. Do I just hit FaceTime?
You know what? I'm new to this, so I'm not entirely sure. If you go back, if you're able to access the email with the link in it, you should actually be able to hit that link, and it'll pull you straight to this. So if you want to,
that's what I did.
Let me see here.
I think when I logged in, it immediately asked, do you want to do internet audio or something like that, dial in with internet or some other option. I did the first option. But did it ask you anything about audio when you first signed on, when you first joined the meeting?
No, it didn't. Here, I'm going to drop out and try it again, okay?
Okay. Hey, Tina.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, my goodness. I'm loving this. This is awesome. Hey, Craig.
Hello. Jim, in a minute.
All right. We got a lot of you guys jumping on. This is awesome. Okay. So a couple things. If you know you have background noise, go ahead and mute yourself. There'll be a few times where I ask questions, but I'll give you a second to respond to be fair to you. So, and you can turn me down if I'm too long.
How do you mute yourself?
You should be able to go up to the right-hand corner and actually mute. Hit the mute button.
Okay, it says record though, not.
If you're on your phone, I don't know if you can hear me. If you're on your phone,
yes,
you just tap the screen real quick, and at the bottom it should pull up. It says mute, stop video, several options.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
You just have to tap your phone to give you those, and then it goes away in a minute.
Dang it. Can you guys see me?
Yes, I can see you.
All right. It worked.
Yay. All right. Well, hey, it is 8:31, so I want to use everybody's time super wisely. Thank you so much for hopping on here. A couple things. Feel free to mute yourself. I'm learning through this process, so what you just shared, Carrie, basically tap the screen and you should be able to mute yourself. If you do not want to mute yourself, just make sure that you are in a somewhat quiet part of your house so that the background feedback isn't too loud in the video. We are recording for the purposes of people being able to follow along with this training potentially in the future. So I'm excited about the opportunity for people to watch this later. I will ask a couple of questions, so feel free to tap the screen again and unmute yourself and answer. I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that. This is not Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune, so you're okay. All right. Thumbs up from everybody if you're muted or if you're good to go. All right, I'm gonna scroll the screen. Hey, Keely. Hey, June and Craig. I love it. Hey, Shelly. What's up, girl? Man. Hey, Jamie. We got a full load. This is awesome. Okay. So I will go ahead and get it started. Oh, yes.
I'm not seeing anybody.
You're not seeing me? All right, you may have to, we just had something similar that just happened with Mark, so you may have to hop out and hop back in. It should give you the option to view it or by video or by phone audio only.
Okay.
So if you
Can anybody see me?
Oh, there, I got it.
Is this January?
Okay, so you're hearing it now.
This is Janie.
Hey, Janie.
Hey, hey.
All right. Well, we do have some. It seems like we have a couple of you with some video complications. So if you don't mind, we're going to go ahead and get started. And if you've got a pen and paper, just kind of hold on to it there and listen along. That'll give you a chance to follow along with us, even though you may not be able to see me for tonight. But I promise you, I don't look anything special. Currently, I'm wearing a shirt, but I do have pajama pants on my bottom, okay? So we're going to do a part of our training tonight, and we've got a volunteer who's actually going to chime in a little bit. Shannon Newman is with us. Shannon, will you wave just for a second? I don't know if you can see anybody else who's participating, but Shannon is going to be sharing a little bit later, so she's going to and share. Hey, Shalane. So before we get everything started, again, for those of you who just hopped on, feel free to mute yourself if you feel like your background noise is a little too noisy. And then, yeah, by muting yourself, that allows for your screen not to take over all of the screen, if that makes any sense. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, you are.
All right, before we get started, first, I'd love to just take a minute just to pray for us. What we do with the Next Steps team, I know every one of you takes what you do very seriously, and so I do too. And it's really a matter of being stewards of the people that God is bringing to us at Renovation. And so I just want to ask for you to just be here with us in our training. So if you've not muted yet and you're cooking in the kitchen, I can hear you. You must be baking a pie or something. All right, I'll pray for us, and then we'll get started, all right? Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity just to be able to come before you and learn together and grow together. Lord, we just thank you that you've given us the gift of hospitality and that Jesus showed us that first. And so we just pray that tonight that each of us will walk away encouraged, and Lord, that we would have learned something new about who you are and really the gift that you've given us in serving at Renovation Church. And we just thank you for this time. See your name. We pray. Amen. Awesome. Well, since I got everybody here on the screen, I got to ask you, how many of you are new to the team? Raise your hand. Brand new to the team. You're new on Next Steps. Raise your hand. Anybody here? I got one. I got two. Hey, January. Hey, Heather. So we got two new team members. couple of you have hopped on in the last 6 months, and you're just being a part of this team. You haven't had a chance to get in and do some training with us. And so really what tonight is about is bringing everybody all onto the same page. So instead of everyone being in different books, we're starting at the first chapter of the same book. Make sense? So I wanted to start with a couple of things. First off, what we do at Renovation with Next Steps is just really what I believe probably the most pivotal part of a guest experience, primarily because God's given us the gift of guests. Really, at the end of the day, the church is made up of people. And so if we don't have people, there is no collection of God's people, the church. So I look at this as really the Next Steps team is really like the cornerstone in what we do, because guests make a lot of their decision on whether or not they're going to return or whether or not they're going to take a next step based off of the experience they have with each of you. So I'm so grateful that each of you are on the team, and I really believe that God has brought each one of you for a specific purpose, and I know you're passionate about our guests. Some of you have actually seen Renovation from the very beginning, which is awesome. And some of you have seen it just within the last 6 months or less. And so all of you are going to be on the same page after tonight. So I want to start first by talking a little bit about the best practices before a Sunday morning experience begins. First thing, one thing that I've learned is learn from my own experience. Have you ever been someplace for the very first time and you thought, no one knows me and I know no one? And so we can all learn from those experiences, moments that have been encouraging and moments that have been discouraging when it comes to being a guest in someone else's space. So number one, learn from your own practices, learn from your own experience. So if you're taking notes, learn from your own experience. Number two, prepare and pray. My hope is that every Sunday before you arrive on campus, that you're getting an opportunity to just prepare your heart, to ask God to just give you the opportunity to have a conversation with somebody who maybe needs that conversation to be encouraged, that God is bringing down the walls even in your own heart. I mean, at the end of the day, we come in on a Sunday morning and we all have our own things that we're dealing with. And for a moment, we've just got to go on pause because we've got this gift of being able to steward God's people. And so I ask that before we even start a Sunday morning, that you would take time to just prepare and pray. Ask yourself, am I on autopilot? That's a question that I have to ask myself every single Sunday morning. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I made kind of a goal, a Sunday goal, that I would have 10 unique conversations on a Sunday. Not with guests that I know and not with volunteers that I know, but 10 unique conversations on a Sunday. And then I would take notes on those individuals. So you might see me on a Sunday morning walking around with my phone open, and I'm just making a note so that I won't forget the conversation I just had. Because my hope is that that I have the opportunity to have a conversation with that guest again at a later time. But if I don't have those unique conversations, I find myself getting into the same bubble of people. And maybe you're a little bit like me. So I take time on Sunday mornings to pray, to ask God to prepare my heart, and to make my eyes sensitive to what it is that He wants me to see. And then number three, expect new people. At the end of the day, when we are expecting, we are anticipating. We will start to think about what could a guest need. So expect new people, because that's what we're going to see every single Sunday. And there's actually not been a Sunday morning where we haven't had a first-time guest or a first-time family who's coming to Renovation for the very first time. Number four, understand base fears. This is just, again, before your experience on a Sunday morning begins, consider what it is that somebody could be bringing in with them on a Sunday morning. What kind of challenges could they be expecting at home? What kind of relationships might be broken? And ultimately, what have they potentially experienced at another church that you don't want them to experience at your church? So understand base fears. So that's just kind of a couple of things that I've learned over the last couple of years about best practices of my own before I start on a Sunday morning. And I just want to encourage you guys as the Next Steps team to consider doing that as well. So now we're going to talk about engaging guests. Know that the message starts in the parking lot. Okay, so this does absolutely connect with you as a Next Steps team because you have the vantage point of seeing the parking lot. You can see who's coming. In fact, what's so neat about our move to the high school is that when we couldn't see who was coming around the corner. We didn't know until they were there. Now we can see the cars far before they arrive at our parking lot. We can see them pulling up, and we can see from far away who is approaching us because just your position as a team. So know that the message of what we're sharing, that Jesus is life-changing, that with Jesus there is joy and excitement, all of that starts in the parking lot, and you guys are positioned right there at the parking lot. So you might be wondering, what does a first-time guest look like? They have a slower pace. They're looking around. They're very early or they're very late. This is why it's so important that your team is available as much as possible throughout the hour. It's always better to ask than assume. We're going to talk about this a little bit more later, but it is always better to ask, how long have you been coming to Renovation, rather than just assume that they've been coming for weeks or months, because there's nothing worse than to have a conversation later and to hear that somebody
I need to put these two.
without ever being introduced to anybody or having someone have a conversation with them. Ultimately, observe body language. It says a whole lot about what a person is feeling and thinking and whether or not they're a guest. Here's a couple of things that I've learned. Give them something to talk about. True story. People are going to say something about Renovation Church. Don't we want to give them something good to talk about? Give them something to talk about. Let it be that they walked away from their first experience or maybe their 30th experience going, wow, I am always amazed. So give them something to talk about. Remember that the experience of a guest can be based on one person. No pressure or anything. Be in the moment, be fully present, be proactive, not reactive. Be enthusiastic, make eye contact, smile, and enjoy yourself. Maintain an approachable posture and ultimately anticipate their needs. So listen to what they're asking and listen to what they're not asking. And then finally, be you. Be fully you. I want to be fully me, and you should be fully you. And what's so neat about this is that in doing, we create some of the best practices for ourselves that hopefully you get the opportunity to share with somebody else. So what are some of your best practices that you've experienced? That's kind of a question that I often ask our team leaders. And so tonight I wanted to give Shannon Newman a couple minutes to share just a couple of her best practices that she has experienced and some that she's learned over time at Renovation. And just to give you a little bit of a context, Shannon has really been on our Next Steps and First Time Guest team since almost the beginning of Renovation. So she's been doing this over the last couple of years. What she does on her 40-hour work week, we'll go ahead and call it that, is she works with HR. So she onboards new staff members all the time. And so she just has a lot of interaction with first-time staff, first-time guests, and ultimately first-time volunteers, which she also onboards our new volunteers on the host team. So why don't you guys, if you can, put a little clap, clap, clap together for Shannon. And then Shannon, I'm going to let you take the lead on this, okay?
Woo! Okay. Thank you. So I know that Emily already shared a few of those best practices, but for me, I think it's just important to be aware and be aware of your surroundings, body language, and that kind of thing. And I know I'm a talker, and I always love to get caught up with the volunteers in the tent because I don't get to see them during the week, and they may not be in my circle. But let's always just be aware the guests that are coming up. So if you can still talk and carry on your conversations, just make sure your back's to the building so your body is, to the front so you can catch those folks as they do come up. And as Emily mentioned, the pace and watching out to see how they are. And as far as like our church is getting so big now, there are people that I don't know, and I didn't know if they were a first-time guest or not, but my best practice was to just introduce myself, which was a natural lead-in, I've not met you before. And if it's their first time, they usually say, well, it's because it's my first time. And if it wasn't and they've been coming, then that was just another opportunity for me to get to know someone that I didn't know before. Another thing, and we had talked about this in one of our other trainings when we were with the auditorium team, and that was, we always want to make sure that we're with our guests the entire time, showing them what they need to be shown, whether it's the restroom, cafe, and then ultimately getting them into the auditorium to do a natural handoff to one of the auditorium volunteers. And we talked about this in a leader training before when it was actually one of the auditorium volunteers that said, hey, it's a best practice for us to do that handoff in the auditorium, and then they can be seated. That way they've got someone with them the entire time. Have encountered a difficult guest, a difficult first timer. And I've talked to Emily about a couple of different things. And I think the best thing to remember is that we don't know what this person, had going on before they came onto our campus. And it probably has nothing to do with us. So just give them grace and remember our purpose for, getting them everything that they need while they are in our care, which kind of leads into the next one, which is to be flexible. Sometimes things just don't go as we have planned them or how we've been trained to do them or how it's written. And that happens actually a lot. So in those cases, just be you and do what feels right in the moment. Again, reading that body language is good. So, especially those folks who arrive early, sometimes the ones who arrive really early, you kind of get to that point where you've run out of things to say. And that's a good time for you to introduce them to another volunteer, again, take them around. And then after you've maybe even gotten them seated, let another volunteer know, hey, this is a new person. Why don't you go introduce yourself? I've sent my husband over to introduce himself to new folks all the time. And the other thing that just two other little points, the thank you notes that we write, when we write them after we've met the guest, it just makes them personal. And certainly it helps out Emily and Craig or whoever else has to write those notes. But that way, you can make it personal for whatever story that they were letting you know and how you met them. And just, I want to encourage you all to continue to give feedback to Emily and the lead team. They make improvements all the time based on things that we tell them and that we're experiencing. So I just want to definitely encourage all of you on that. And just thank you. This is great. This is a great format, and so excited to see so many of you tonight.
Yay! Thank you for sharing a little bit about that. So I hope that in the future I can have some of you guys share a little bit of your own best practices. I know that some of you have probably already thought of at least one thing that you do, and never be afraid to share that with the rest of the team. I think ultimately there are team members who will benefit from it. And, each one of you are uniquely different. And so you may find that there is something that someone shares with you that you're like, oh, wow, our personalities are very similar, and that would help me out to to be able to do what they're doing. So never be afraid to share those things. Like Shannon said, we are always looking for ways that we can improve on those things. So this is kind of just, there's 3 parts for tonight. We've sort of talked about the best practices for before we engage with guests, and then we talked about engaging the guest and some of our best practices. And so now I just want to kind of talk about what are some steps to accomplishing the mission that we have on a Sunday morning. Whether you've been with us from almost the very beginning or you're just hopping on, it's good that everybody can kind of be on the same page about these things, because when we work together, we work in synchrony instead of working against one another and all over the place. And so I think sometimes that synchrony comes when we're all on the same page and we know basic details. So, excuse me. So I'm going to run through a couple of things. On Sunday mornings, we have a mission to create an environment full of hope, full of excitement, full of joy, full of anticipation for what Jesus can do in our lives. And so that comes through us being synchronized as a team, as a Next Steps team. Specifically, what we do on Sunday mornings is to assist every guest to take a next step, whatever that next step might look like. And that brings hope to them that, wow, God can use me. He can do something in my life. And so here's just a couple of steps to accomplishing that mission as a team, to helping people take a next step, whatever that next step may be for them, whether it is for baptism, for salvation, maybe it's to serve, maybe it's simply just to say, I need a person in my life that knows God because I have nobody. Whatever that is, our goal is to help every person to take some next step forward in their relationship with Jesus, whatever that might look like. So here's just a couple of steps to accomplishing the mission. If you're a note taker like me, this is good. I asked this question when it comes to our Next Steps team, and really overall our host team in general. Have you ever had someone walk through the door, your front door at your home, that you weren't expecting? I ask myself this question. Hey, Emily, how would you respond if somebody walked in your front door and you weren't expecting them? Would they catch you off guard? Would you be a little frustrated? Would you know what they needed? Would you be frightened? All of those things come into play when you look at just guests in general and creating an environment that encourages people to take next steps. Because if you're not expecting someone to walk through the door, then you're not going to do everything that we're getting ready to talk about. And so that's really important whenever we look at our guests. So here's a couple things that I want to encourage you with. I don't ever want a guest to walk through my door and me be surprised by it. I want to always say, you know what, my door's open, and I'm excited to connect with somebody. The same thing goes on a Sunday morning. I don't ever want you to be surprised when somebody walks up on campus. Oh my goodness, they came too early or too late, or oh. So here's just a couple of things I want to encourage you with. 1, arrive on time. We are all adults. We should arrive on time. Let me tell you what that looks like, just like basic numbers. If you serve at 9:15, arrive by 8:30. We have a team time. That team time it's really crucial. It gives you the opportunity to rally up with other guests. You get to hear what's happening at the beginning of the morning. This is kind of the snowball effect that takes place in a positive manner, that we get really excited at 8:30 and that momentum pushes into the second hour. If you miss that 8:30 team time, where we're all collectively together, you really are missing something really special to connect with other teams and other team members. At Renovation, we do not serve in silo ministries. We are all connected. You're on the Next Steps team. You know, we are never not connected to another ministry. We are always working in tandem with another ministry. So I want to encourage you, be on time. If you're there for 9:15 hour, you need to be there at 8:30. As soon as that large group team time is over, 8:40, you're going to meet with your team leader right under the Next Steps tent outside. Gather up with your team. If you're 9:15, your team leader is Mark. If you're 11:15, it's Barbara Langdon. You're going to meet under that big tent. It'll give you just 5 minutes to just circle up and pray for the morning and ultimately go over any major details that you need to know. If you are a part of the 11:15 team, 10:40. Let that be your time that you arrive. It's okay if your kids are with you for the second hour, because once your team time's over, you're going to scoot and go check them in anyways. And I think most of you for the second hour don't have kids that are too small. And so bring them with you. Gives them the opportunity to see you serving and to see you giving back to for the kingdom. So I think we've actually got a couple of team members who bring their kids who are now serving with them. So that to me is just a powerful thing for our kids to be able to experience. Be aware of your team's circumstance and your timing. And just know that basically we now have two different flows on a Sunday morning. We have the beginning of the hour where we're way more heavy out in that first time guest tent. And then we have the second half of the hour where we are way heavier in the lobby area. So don't miss the opportunity to catch that ebb and flow. So you might be in one place or the other, but just know that obviously first time guests come at the beginning of the hour, and on the second side of the hour, it's really people taking those next steps. So they will come to the lobby area and be ready to engage them. Secondly, assist every guest. Every guest. It doesn't matter if they're a first-time guest or they have been coming for 2 years and they have just decided that they wanted to be connected. You being available 20 minutes before a service starts, so I guess it would be 8:55 and 10:55 is really where you got to be like all in. Those 20-minute window, everything is like slam packed. There's a ton of first-time guests coming in and out. So be on the lookout for those guests. Know their body language, like we've said. Answer questions, even when you have to work hard to find the answers to them. Provide a clean and approachable environment. We don't really have this issue because we don't have a whole lot of spots to stick stuff. But I will say there is one thing that can be a distraction for guests. It's whenever we have a lot of guests or a lot of team members circled up at the tables talking with each other. That can be a little bit unapproachable for a guest because they'll say to themselves, they look really busy. They don't have time for me. And then on the actual physical side of things is that if your bags and your Bibles and all that stuff are sitting everywhere on the tables or on the floor, which we really don't have an issue with this, but if you have your items and you want to keep them in a safe place and you want them to be taken care of, feel free to drop them in VHQ. There is always a team member in that area whenever we are serving guests. You can even stick them into a host team box and shut that door. That lets you know your stuff is in there and it is being taken care of. I don't mind you having your phones with you and stuff and your Bibles with you, but like bags and all of that, if you can, put them into those areas. That just helps, again, keep it nice and clean. You have plenty of elbow room to have conversations with guests at the table and help them and assist them in filling out any cards that we have. Ask yourself this question. How can I minimize distractions so that guests feel that their needs can be met? It's a good question to ask yourself. Create a warm and inviting presence. Smile. Stay attentive. Don't disengage, even when you know this conversation might take longer than you were thinking it would. It will pay off in the end. I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with guests that they looked at me at the end and they said, wow, you stuck with me. That took a really long time, but thank you so much. And you guys really do stick to what you say. You want every person to belong, and you just answered a really pivotal question for me. Don't feel like you can't stay with a guest or a family and help them along the way. So just stay in that moment. Limit your personal conversations. I say this to myself, bust up my own party. Okay. I'm a creature of habit. I think we can all agree that there's times when you just want to catch up with your friends. What's so neat about Renovation is that our volunteer culture is like family. So we want to be around each other. We want to have a good time. We want to chat. But if you can, keep that minimized and really maximize those conversations with guests. Be in the know about basic information about Renovation. It's really simple. Where are the environments located? For you as a first time and next steps team, that's really critical. You don't want to find out where something is while you're actually getting there. It's helpful to just take a walk around campus and have a good idea of where everything's already located. What time do we start and finish? 9:15 and 11:15 is our start times, and then we finish an hour and 5 minutes after that. That's our goal, to be done an hour and 5 minutes after we've started a service. No basic lead team names. Pastor John, Emily Ondish, Lenny. Joey Todd is our family pastor. Craig Baker is our community pastor. Know those basic names so that if somebody asks a question like, where can I find out more information about community groups, or where can I find out more about family ministry? I just want to plug my kid into our squads. You're able to give them a name that you know, and that gives them confidence in that. And then also just know the basics on how to plug people in. For first-time volunteers, there's an orientation. We do that once a month. For those wanting membership, there's a next steps gathering. We do that once a month. So there's lots of ways that people can get plugged in, MCGs, all of that. But just know the basic step. It really begins with filling out that next steps card. That is our mode of being able to communicate with guests that want to take a next step. So use your resources wisely. VIP guide. We print one out every single week. I'm not sure how many of you have a chance to read it on Sundays, but if you can, take a moment to just read it through. That's where that team time is really crucial for you and your team leaders, is that you have the chance to look through that and go, okay, I know what's happening this morning, so that if somebody comes and asks me questions, or Pastor John references it and tells guests to come to me, I know the basic information. There's going to be times where things aren't covered, where God's doing something big, and John just says, hey, I want to have an opportunity for people who want to make a decision for Christ to go to next steps. And in those moments, we're going to be flexible, like Shannon said. Celebrate wins. Every step is a win. Celebrate it. Let them know, wow, I'm just so excited that you've chosen to come to the next steps area, and I'm so excited I have the opportunity to be able to connect with you. Celebrate every win, because every step is a win. And when you can see that, there's just never a Sunday not to celebrate. Receive information with the next step in mind. So if somebody's telling you, like they're verbalizing to you, hey, I want to find out more about missional community groups, and you're chatting with them. If they have a student with them, why not say, hey, are you interested in our squads? We've got a great spot for your students. So while you're thinking and listening to them, those two, being able to encourage them to take another next step is always really helpful. And then listen to the guest needs. I mentioned this earlier. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to what they're not saying. If they haven't mentioned anything about kids and they don't have any kids with them, then they probably don't want any information about kids, and that'll limit your conversation. And it'll also limit the opportunity for them to be embarrassed by telling you that they haven't been able to have children. You never know. We don't know what our guests are bringing in, so keep that in mind. Posture and disposition are difference makers. I've learned that if I stand with my arms open and a smile on my face, that I'm going to make a difference, and that's going to make a difference in the atmosphere and the environment that we're trying to create. Ask yourself this question. Did you know that having fun means you actually look like you're having fun? Did you know that? Having fun actually means you look like you're having fun. So have fun and look like you're having fun doing it. And finally, it's okay to not have all the answers. I think that guests are always really encouraged whenever they realize that we don't know everything. But you know what? A volunteer that's willing to say, hey, I don't know it all, but I would love to catch up with you after the service, and I'll find out the answer to this question by the end of the service. That says a whole lot. So guys, I'm going to have to cut our training short now. I just realized I got like 2 minutes left, but I want to encourage you in this one thing. I'm going to send an email. It's going to have a survey attached to it, and it's going to have this video with a link so that you can go back and watch it if you haven't had the chance to stay connected the whole time. But I want you to ask yourself this question: what's one topic that I need to learn more about? And meaning you as a volunteer team member, what is it that you need to learn more about, and how can I help you be more successful on our Next Steps team? So thank you for taking just a couple minutes, guys. Give yourself a round of applause for spending time with us tonight. It was a short time, 25, 30 minutes. Yeah. I love all of you guys, and we'll get connected again. Remember, survey for feedback. It's going to make things better. Thanks for being with us tonight. Bye.